Welcome to Retire Right with Rick Durkee, presented exclusively by the Coastal Financial Planning Group here on News Radio 94.3 WSC. Rick Durkee is the retirement income planning and wealth distribution specialist in the Lowcountry. Are you ready to retire right? Here's your host this morning, Shane Griffin.
And good morning. Welcome in for another edition of Retire Right with Rick Durkee. I am your host, Shane Griffin. Each and every Saturday morning here at 9 o'clock, I have the privilege of sitting down with our local retirement, income planning, and wealth distribution specialist, Rick Durkee, to help you to retire right. Rick, I am back, and here you are.
Wow,
nice job last week with Doug Snyder, by the way.
Man, I had to fill some big shoes. Just like the big red shoes. Ronald McDonald. Yeah, hey, Shane, before we get started today, I did want to make a quick announcement. Rackets for Ronald. When? Today, Saturday, February 13th. Play begins at 11 a.m. Where? At the JL Tennis Academy, Creekside Tennis Club. Hey, go out there and support Rackets for Ronald. A great opportunity for you to give back to the community. And if you would like to also, you can ring a cell phone number, Katie Halsey, 770-845-6591 this morning. And,
great way to give back.
Yep. Great way to give back, and what brought that up? Filling your big shoes last weekend.
That's right.
I think I did okay.
You did a fine job. You've had some experience in interviewing folks over the past 10 years,
just like the old days at on the
Money Matters,
the Money Matters show. yeah. So hey. Let's get down to what we're going to talk about today on Retire Right.
Absolutely. You know, I found an interesting article, and it was so interesting and had so much good information that this is going to be split over the next 2 Saturdays. This article was found at dailyfinance.com, and it's the 12 things that financially successful people do differently. So before we get into that, a couple of reminders. You can listen to past programs at Rick's website, cfpgroup.biz, cfpgroup.biz. You can also access those programs at the podcast page at our website, 943wsc.com. Just search for the podcast page, and you'll see Retire Right with Rick Durkee right there on the podcast page, and all the shows going back multiple months. So if you've heard something, you want to listen again, missed a show, they're all right there, titled for you, and it's absolutely free of charge, 943wsc.com. And also, too, Rick?
Hey, we're transcripting the shows now, too, so we'll have them in writing and available for you. It takes a couple weeks, folks, but if you are interested in today's topic, certainly shoot us an email, rick@cfpgroup.biz, and we'll get you out a copy as soon as we have it transcripted.
And a couple of events happening for you this week coming up, February 16th and 18th. And again, to access Rick's calendar to see what's happening with the organization, the Coastal Financial Planning Group, check the website, cfpgroup.biz. Real quick on those 2 events coming up this week.
Hey, Ruth, Chris, we've got our tax tips and ideas for retirement-minded people. Often imitated, never duplicated. The Rick Durkee seminars at Ruth Chris.
Yep.
And certainly also, folks, Retire Right with Rick Durkee. Been on the air now here in Charleston for 8 years running, and looking forward to today's topic with you, Shane.
Absolutely. Well, Jeff Rose wrote an article for dailyfinance.com where he outlines the 12 things financially successful people do differently. Of the 12, Rick, 6 of them I'd like to cover over the next 2 weeks. What we're going to do is break them up, 3 today and then 3 next week. They cover retirement income planning, so some great information over the next couple of weeks, so please feel free to listen carefully, some real good stuff. Before we jump in, though, Rick, I want to talk about some of your most successful clients over the years. You know, I think that it's very important to look at what successful people do in their line of work, whether it's money, spiritual, whatever the case may be, to see what they do well and then imitate that to some degree. So talk about some of the folks that you've met over the years that have been very successful and that win at retirement. What are some of the things they do?
Shane, I would say the most common trait that successful retirees have is that they followed a detailed process during their working years. Mm-hmm. So the first person that comes to mind, Johnny, if you're listening, a dentist that recently came to one of our college courses last year and then followed up, came to our dinner seminar, listened, learned, and then felt it was very appropriate for him to pursue some planning on his retirement with the Coastal Financial Planning Group. He had done quite a very good job at putting money into IRAs. Now, the problem is that his income was way too high to be able to use a traditional IRA. So he had to use a non-deductible IRA, and was able to fund in quite a bit of money into those IRAs over his working years. And so we were able to put together a plan. We looked at his tax concerns, we looked at his income planning needs, and then we also looked at his risk exposure and reviewed that with him. And now he has a written plan in place, an income plan in place, and we'll review that once a year with him. So happy retirement to you, Johnny. And
that's great.
And if you're not out in the woods right now, hey, I'm glad you're listening to us this morning.
Right.
Second. We have a couple that were heavy into real estate investing.
Okay.
And their income was set up during the last 15, 20 years coming from rental properties. However, the management of those rental properties became very difficult. They didn't want to farm that out and pay a fee to a management company. But they knew that they really wanted to. When I met them first at one of our dinner seminars, they came up to me afterwards and they said, we really want to phase out of this way of generating our retirement income. So we put together a plan, and then every time they would sell off a property, of course, we had to wait during the real estate bubble when it popped, and then time out when it was best to sell off these properties. But now they're down to 2 properties, and we manage a majority of their assets for them. They came in recently and had a concern that there was a pension on Jim, we'll call him, and that pension was unprotected. So we looked at ways to guarantee income in the event of Jim's death, and now his wife knows that she's secure and has a plan in place to replace that lost income if Jim predeceases her. So that was another great story and a success story for retirement planning.
Absolutely.
And I wish I could clone those clients.
Yeah, I bet.
Give you the third example. This fella actually got his start in the insurance industry.
Okay.
And so he was very familiar with what we talk about here weekly on Retire Right, and he came to one of our college classes and had done very well through that, and then also some commercial real estate that he had invested in. And so he was phasing out of that part of his life, and another Jim, we'll say. And this Jim had done very well at building that wealth through commercial properties, but had found it at this point more beneficial to shift that towards guaranteed income also. So we use some deferred annuities. They're not kicked in yet. Folks, you need to always remember that the deferred annuity is an opportunity in the future to take income if you wish, or continue to defer it until the day you die, and then it'll transfer to someone else, either through a beneficiary arrangement or a joint ownership arrangement. But the key word here is deferred. We taught the classes at the College of Charleston here over the last few weeks, Shane, and that was, I asked at the beginning of the class, what do you want to learn when you leave? We want to learn how to make sure our income lasts as long as we do.
That's right.
And have an income plan. And secondly, we want to hear about these annuities everybody's talking about. People, there's a shift in discussion now. It's not about the return on your money anymore. It's about the return of your money and what kind of percentage are you going to get as a payout.
Yeah, you've said
guaranteed.
that before.
And so this second Jim is very comfortable. He had placed over 60% of his retirement wealth in deferred annuities that at some point in time are going to kick in an income and help him and his wife travel around the world. That's their objective.
Well, what's interesting is that it all comes back to, and we're getting into the topic here in just a moment, but it always comes back to something that you've been talking a lot about over the past couple of years, and now it's really starting to come to fruition with the market the way it is, the markets the way they are, is that it comes down to a process and a systematic approach. It's not emotions. It's not what should I do now. You have to put those those processes in place to make sure that you're making good, solid, sound decisions that you talk about and have been talking about for years now. You've been trumpeting this for at least 4 or 5 years.
Well, Shane, and
even during the bull run.
Yep. And the thing is that we have to know, and this is what happens when you sit down and discuss these things with a financial planning firm. You go through this process to learn what you want and need your money to do.
Right.
Okay, in the future.
Right.
What you want and need your money to do. That's how you develop the plan. And then these solutions, or tools as I call them, slip into the plan, and that's the products. What so many people make a mistake in is that they think they have to evaluate all products.
They put the product first before the process. Yeah.
And that becomes a very daunting task. Why don't you let somebody that knows what they're doing help you develop your plan, and then they can make recommendations as to what products will best dovetail into that plan.
Well, it's like anything else, a team of experts. I mean, you definitely wouldn't work on your own teeth. You have a person that does that. It's called a dentist.
That's right.
If you're not a mechanic, you wouldn't try to figure out what's happening with your 2007 BMW. You're not an expert at that. So why do you trust your money, your life savings, something that you spent your entire working years putting money toward? Why would you trust that to yourself if you're not an expert in that field?
Absolutely, Shane. Good point.
Well, let's get started on the topic. As we promised, we have about 15 minutes to jump through
we better get going.
This information, but it's really good stuff. The 6 things that financially successful people do differently. The first one, Rick, is what we just talked about, assembling a team of experts. Yeah,
that was the objective, Shane, of the original Money Matters show, a team of financial professionals. We still have that same team today.
Yeah.
Many of the individuals that I've met that help people plan through their different areas of retirement, estate planning, tax planning, and then also financial planning. My number one financial planning partner is Frank Hutto, and Frank is a certified financial planner. That is definitely somebody that you want on your team, helping you to develop your plan. So, Frank, thank you for your years of service with the Coastal Financial Planning Group. But here's the main point I'd like to make about this, Shane, is successful people have identified where they are experts, as he said, and where they aren't.
Well, we just talked about it, yeah.
You know, I can change the oil in my truck, and I do, okay? But I'm certainly not going to tear that transmission down and start working on that if it goes bad in the future.
Sure.
You know, most people find that some point in their lifetime that they need a good family or business lawyer, an accountant, a financial counselor, helping them with short-term decisions, long-term decisions, budgeting, debt management, and then a financial advisor that works in the long term, such as we do at the Coastal Financial Planning Group, with long-term decisions and retirement planning. Help them along the way, guide them down that road to retirement, make sure that they avoid the potholes and the roadblocks of retirement up front. By doing a proper plan, you're going to seek out those problems that may occur in the future and avoid those problems with proper planning. So, you know, you should find those people now, though, okay? And if you don't have the opportunity or the resources to do that, then you certainly should consult with a financial planner that helps by providing that team of resources to you.
Has those connections to be able to help you.
Yeah, again, so that can dovetail into your plan, and those individuals can dovetail into your plan, and they're all connected.
Right.
They all know the information so that they can work together as a team of financial professionals. So aside from the lawyer, any other of the ones that I mentioned earlier, of those subject matter experts are people that you'll want to meet with more than once a year, okay, when you review your plan. So I think that's something that successful people have identified.
Assembling a team of experts.
Yep.
Okay. Moving along to the second thing financially successful people do differently. Again, this is an article found on dailyfinance.com. We're covering 3 today and 3 next week. Number 2 is to minimize taxes, which you had Doug Snyder on the show last week talking a bit about that.
Yeah, it's always good to have a good CPA in your back pocket. I ask this question oftentimes, Shane. When you sat down with your CPA in the last year, did you pay him an extra fee for tax forward planning. Okay, did you pay them more than just to fill out that tax return and regurgitate those numbers and give it back to you? Did you sit down with them and say, okay, this is what we learned this year. What can we do next year to avoid these problems so we can stop some money slipping through the cracks? Financially successful people, again, look to minimize their tax burden. The reason that they do that is because they realize if I save $1,000 a year doing this, and I'm going through retirement for 20 or 30 years, that's an extra $20,000 to $30,000 in my retirement budget. Now, ask the people out there that are listening, what could you do with an extra $20,000 to $30,000?
Goodness.
Certainly, you could do a little extra work on the house, do that renovation. You know, you could visit the grandchildren. You could travel a little bit more. Things that you definitely want to do is look at how to minimize your tax burden. It's not through tax evasion, folks. It's through tax avoidance, okay? All right? You know, certainly, as I mentioned before, Shane, financially successful people have a CPA on their team, so they don't miss applicable deductions when it comes time to file their taxes, and that's what we had Doug on the show for last week. Those financially successful people also invest pre-tax dollars in tools such as 401ks, where you get a company match. They also invest after-tax dollars in a Roth IRA to avoid paying taxes on their earnings in the future. And certainly, it's always better to pay taxes today in today's potential tax increasing environment versus paying with dollars that are not worth what they are today, tomorrow. They're inflation ravaged. So at the end of each day, taxes are every American's responsibility, but there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of tax benefits to the degree that the law allows.
That's right.
Okay,
got to be very clear about that. To the degree that the law allows.
Exactly.
If you would like more information on the topic we are discussing this morning, you can call 735-5065, 735-5065, 843 in front of that, of course. You can also request a copy of this article if you'd like. It's from dailyfinance.com. You can send Rick an email requesting the article, rick@cfpgroup.biz, rick@cfpgroup.biz. Rick, the third of six and the last one for today, things financially successful people do differently, is they build wealth.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Pretty simple.
That's true. It's certainly a top priority in their plan, Shane, and it's done with a steady, plodding, overtime, not overnight attitude. Okay? It's that story that we heard when we were children, the tortoise and the hare, who won the race. Okay? The tortoise did with slow and steady forward movement. Okay, not taking the little opportunity here that looks like a hot investment opportunity. People get burned typically with those. Emotions get involved. Okay, when you look at the studies on investor sentiment, people make big mistakes based on emotions. Okay, you should have rules-based strategies in your investment decisions. You should have things decided for you automatically so that you don't let emotions get involved. So many mistakes have been made by buying that hot stock that's hot today and not tomorrow. So financially successful people also seek to maximize their retirement investments via their retirement planning options at their employers. Okay, you might have a TSP if you're a federal government employee. You may have a 403B. You may have a 401k.
Sure.
You may be self-employed and have options, a simple 401k, or you might have a SEP plan. Okay, many different options to be able to fund in those what we call qualified retirement plans. Keep in mind, folks, that there is one downside to that money. When it comes out, it will be fully taxable because none of those dollars have been taxed going in. All right, so we have to make sure that we're not creating a big tax time bomb with all of our retirement savings. You need to look at things such as a Roth IRA, things that may not, give you the tax break now, which if you're younger, you may be in a lower tax bracket, so the deduction of a traditional contribution or elimination of that income on your income tax return may not be as advantageous as putting it into a tax-free tool such as a Roth.
Right.
Certainly, if you're older, the Roth IRA is a good home for money that you plan on not using in your lifetime, because if you pass those dollars to a future heir or charity or charitable contribution to a foundation or something like that, you will be giving those dollars tax-free. Very important in a potential rising tax rate environment. So look at those plans. Certainly, they will appreciate in value. Other assets such as businesses or real estate certainly can be invested in and looked at for retirement income. Certainly, they can eventually be sold and can generate monthly income to support people later in life.
Right.
Your equity in your home can be looked at as a tool to provide you with income on a tax-free basis. Future dollars that can offset maybe as you integrate them into your income plan and with proper income allocation.
Right.
And certainly that's something that you want to look at is where is all this money coming from and how is it going to be taxed so you can hold your taxes down low. The thing that's the most valuable asset that people have when it comes to saving is time.
Time, boy.
Okay, for compounding.
Yep.
And putting this money in early and then letting it compound certainly may require some work up front because you might have to give up some things now with that where you'd like to spend that money.
Yeah.
But certainly this does create some free time in the end because why? Because your money now is going to do the work for you.
That's right.
You're going to retire, and then your money is going to go to work for you, and you're going to let it be your new employee that's generating you money throughout your retirement years. So, Shane, I want to go back to that point of proper income allocation is one of the biggest decisions that people can make as to how to fund their retirement with tax planning. And certainly want to enlist the help of a financial planning firm to do an income plan for you. But you want to have already set up these opportunities while you were working and while you were saving so that you have different forms of income that you can pull during retirement.
Right.
Taxable, tax deferred, and non-taxable. Okay, and there's all kinds of tools that are available for people to do that during their savings years.
Good discussion this morning. Good information. We have about a minute left, and I know you have an offer for our listeners this morning, a free book giveaway, correct?
Free book, David Gaylor's Income Allocation book. Folks, if you want to learn more about what I just discussed, how to properly take your savings and spend them down throughout retirement, you'll want to read this book. 100 pages, easy read.
Yep.
Income allocation, not available on Amazon.com. Available if you call us today, 735-5065. That's 735-5065 for income allocation. It's got a big red line through the word asset. Because, folks, it's not about asset allocation anymore in retirement. It is about income planning.
A couple of reminders before we leave you this morning. Rick has the seminars coming up at Ruth's Chris, 6 o'clock on the 16th and the 18th. That is this week. For more information on that, Rick, they can call the office?
Yep, 735-5065.
Put an 843 in front of that. Also, if you missed today's program, caught the tail end, or if you'd like to listen to past programs, check the website, 943WSC.com. Find the podcast page, and Rick Durkee and Retire Right Radio Show is right there. You can also access the shows on his site, cfpgroup.biz, cfpgroup.biz. Always great to see you, Rick, and we'll see you back here next week for the second part of the things that financially successful people do differently. Have a great week, sir.
Thank you, Shane, and thank you to our listeners today. Join us again next Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Retire Right with Rick Durkee here on 94.3 WSC and 94.3WSC.com.